You're listening to Aviation Marketing Hangar Flying, the community for the best sales and marketing professionals in the aviation industry. You can't learn to fly just from a book. You learn from other pilots who know the tools, the skills, and the territory. Your hosts, John and Paula Williams, are your sales and marketing test pilots. They take the risks for you and share strategies, relevant examples, hacks, and how-tos. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes so you won't miss a thing.
So this is actually really exciting. I am so glad to have an author actually in one of our discussions. I know we've had Kim Walsh-Phillips do a separate interview and then do a book club discussion, but actually having Shashank in the room with us is intimidating and also very, very cool. But Shashank, if you...
I promise I shall try my best not to be intimidating today.
Before we started recording, he was telling us how he was going to quiz us out on what's at the bottom of page 23 and that kind of thing for those of us who don't have
my book here. I can look.
Yay! Lillian, you can bail us out. That'll be wonderful.
I'll try.
That's fantastic. So, we've done one interview with Shashank, and I love the book. And actually, the more I talk to you, the more fascinated I am by all the stories that you have of airline people and aviation and all kinds of things aspects of aviation that we don't necessarily get into all the time. So, welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm Shashank, the author of SOAR, if you already haven't read it. And thanks, Paula, for inviting me on the discussion. And most people who are trying to break into aviation or an unknown industry usually start with a book. I didn't. I started with a blog 7 years ago called Simply Flying. And the blog became pretty popular in airline marketing and commercial aviation marketing. And 7 years later, I did write the book. So I'm coming at it the other way around. But really using my experience working with a lot of these airlines in the book to really showcase what makes them different, what makes them stand out. And when I was selecting the airlines, here, I wanted to have a split which was half LCCs and half legacy carriers and half one in each continent of the world. So I managed to check that box. I wanted to make sure that there are some airlines everyone thinks they know about, like Singapore Airlines and Southwest, and yet there are airlines which you'll be pleased that you got introduced to, like Kulula or Vueling or Finnair. So I think that was the objective when I started out, because these are really endearing brands. Singapore Airlines and Southwest are the two most profitable airlines in the world over 20, 30, 40 years. You've got the likes of Finnair and Kulula, which are champions in the market that they're in. Like Kulula is the largest and the first LCC in Africa. Finnair is the largest European carrier in China, of all places. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
And I just felt that these are very unique stories that need to be shared.
That's wonderful. And I know you've had some great success with the book. I know you've sold out at least once and had to...
We did sell out once, and believe it or not, Amazon penalizes you very badly if you do sell out. And I was like, that's supposed to be a good thing.
It is. It's a good thing. We actually were trying to use your book in our book club a month earlier than we actually were able to because of a delay, because it was sold out. So, I think that's a good problem to have.
We've got a very good initial reception, not just from the industry, but even airlines individually. We've had bulk orders from the likes of Bombardier to Royal Brunei Airlines, ordering it for all their staff. So I think that's really encouraging.
That is fantastic. And
hey, that was Shane. I'm sitting in the airport right now, so I apologize for not being online.
Oh, excellent. Shane, good to see you. All right. And Joni Lampert Schultz, Whirly Girls.
Yes.
Good to see you.
Yes, that's me. I'm on the line.
Okay, that's wonderful. All right. And Lillian Tamm, I know you're here.
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. Good to hear you as well. Avacor Aviation, of course. And of course, we're John and Paula Williams, and is SOAR. So let's start just with initial impressions. Let's start with Lillian then.
My impression was it was a very good read, first of all, but also very interesting to see how the different airlines have approached the market and the different angles that they've come with. The commonality that I see with everybody is the customer is still is a main focus for most of them, because without the customers, you're not going to have a business.
Well, I'd say the upper end of the customer is the focus,
The upper end?
particularly for U.S. Airlines, because he was very perceptive in realizing American, United, and Delta, you can't tell them apart when you get in the airplane. All the same colors, all the same everything, no discernible difference.
No, that's true. But with all the airlines that are like discussed in the book, nearly all of them, there's a focus still on, you've got to satisfy the customer, whatever that customer is, and it's going to be different in different markets.
That's absolutely right. And Shashank, what did you? I mean, obviously you had some impressions from having written the book.
Did we lose him?
No,
I'm right here. I did drop off for a minute. I'm back.
Oh, that's
okay.
Right. Okay, well, let's.
You asked him a question he wasn't ready for, so he's failing the test.
Exactly. Oh, that's hysterical. Anyway, we were just sharing impressions about the book, and I'm sure you will hear those when you hear the recording and things. But there's a little bit of a difference of opinion about one of the things that John observed was that a lot of airlines look alike, and you picked the ones that were very different from one another. And Lillian's comment to that was just that you have to serve the market, and the markets are so different for each of these airlines that, of course, the airlines are going to be different.
That's quite interesting that you noticed it. Although, if you'll see, airlines deploy similar strategies based on markets. So, Lillian, you're right. Like Finnair and Air New Zealand couldn't be more different. But yet,
Right.
when they go after the Chinese market, they use the same strategies or similar techniques.
Because different cultures have different, if you want to call it like touch points or things that really speak to them. A big portion of this, from my perspective, is that you have to understand the culture that you're dealing with.
Right, exactly.
And your marketing too.
Yep.
Good point. All right, let's move along. What are the differences between airline marketing and what most of us are involved in, which is some form of private or business aviation marketing?
I loved, I'm going to kind of put the impressions and the question all in one.
Perfect.
My aviation career began in the airlines.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So yeah, I worked for a small commuter airline, and then I worked for a major airline after that. So all the airline, all that airline marketing, all that kind of speaks to me. So this is a great book where it all is comparing, all the different airlines and the what you were talking about with customer service and and the needs of the end user. So it's really, I haven't read completely through, but I kind of picked through a couple of things, and of course Southwest being one of them, because that was kind of the airline I worked for was Piedmont Airlines before that, and they were kind of a result of deregulation and a very much a success in their day, because of one, customer service, and then number two, I think they were in between that Legacy and Southwest. So I got to do that and be part of that company firsthand and sell that company because I was a reservation sales agent. So I'm loving what I read, and personally I've never flown Southwest Airlines, so it's very interesting. Even though I know a lot about them, I've never really flown in their, on them. So loving this. The second question was, refresh my memory, because I'm just trying to.
I was just going to say, what have you seen that are the big differences between between the two types of aviation marketing, which is really airlines and then everything else. And Joni, I know you're now working with the Whirly Girls, which is a nonprofit organization for women that are helicopter pilots, which is pretty far from airlines, but you've covered the whole spectrum, really.
Well, yes, and as I was reading, a couple of my my takeaways, especially with the Southwest, was the comment that Mike Hafner, when he understood that every employee had a story, and the job of the leadership is to learn that story and to connect. And that's what I'm doing as the president of an organization. You know, women are giving us their money on an annual basis. So, you know, that to me, it always goes back to, you know, the story, well, the experience, the value that you put in the organization, or like with the airlines, it's different because you've got a commodity that starts at one time and ends at another time, and you're hoping to fill every seat.
Right.
You know, that to me is the biggest difference, is because you've got to, you know, once that airline flight goes bye-bye, there goes your revenue, you know.
Right.
It's not recoverable.
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm seeing the biggest difference, where I have a chance to, with what I do, develop a long-term relationship, you know, with the individual, and the airlines have to do it as well, but they need to have that repeat customer.
Right.
And so that's kind of, I don't want to talk too much, but that's kind of my gist of the two differences.
Perfect. Lillian, what did you have to add on that one?
Yeah, I do think in private or business aviation, there is a bit more of, you have to be a bit more personal, because many of the clients are, like, let's say you've got an air charter company and they're using corporate jets, and so they've got high-end clients, and things need to be customized, not just in a general sense, but specifically customer by customer. You need to know details. And while some of these airlines are actually doing that, like for their business class, or even for some of the economy, but there's a very fine level that needs to be done, I think, in private and business aviation.
That's true. Shane, are you still with us?
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, excellent.
There he is.
Yeah, did you have anything to add to that?
Well, I am a little biased because I did work for Southwest for several years. So
They got the home team going
I think
here.
Right. I think it's very accurate that, you know, there is a difference between commercial aviation and then the private business aviation side of things. And I would definitely agree that when you're dealing with the business aviation side of things, it's far more about the person-to-person contact. Like, how do you treat a human being like another human being?
Right.
And the airlines are certainly getting there. I think that they have a ways to go still.
Right.
But yeah, the contrast there, I think, is impressive. And yeah, I would agree that the book does a really good job of sort of drilling into those examples.
Fantastic.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned the points that have been mentioned, because a lot of the airlines don't care about the individual customers. Customers are just numbers, and they refer to them as PAX, P-A-X, and that's about it. And it's all figures, right? But the airlines that win are able to treat customers at an individual level, really like guests who are entering their homes. And I know that sounds very fluffy, but that's the reality. The airlines that win ultimately over time are able to deliver that consistently personal service. And I think that's a lesson that commercial aviation can take from private or business aviation, because not many commercial airlines do that very well.
I think there's a lot of lessons commercial can take from private as well. But I just realized that I jumped over John. He was running around doing some technical stuff around here. So are you back, John?
Well, I think back in the day, because I've been in this since back in the day, the marketing from commercial side was a lot more personalized than it is now. And I think it's degraded over time. So with any kind of luck, we'll see it come back the other way.
Good to hear. Okay, so moving on to our favorite, or at least the favorite of a lot of folks on the line, because I think it's one that we have a lot of experience with. I thought this transparency campaign was brilliant, and I liked hearing about that.
I'm
That's
going to have to pass.
all right. Perfectly fine. Not a problem. We promised we wouldn't embarrass anybody today by asking them what happened on the end of page 23. So, Lillian.
Well, transparency, that's page 27. But anyway.
Oh, good. I can reference it now.
There you go.
Yeah, no, it was a great strategy to have the fares be so that people could see what is, what they're getting for it. No frills, but no extra charges and all of that. Very, very good concept.
Right. Excellent. And Shane?
So yeah, I would agree that if you're looking for ways to do a core differentiation between what is essentially a commodity service, you have to do something that gets people's attention, right? And that campaign, I think, was one of those that really moved the needle for them, along with the other one, like, without a heart, it's just a machine. So I think that there were a lot of really clever things that they have done from a strategic marketing perspective. And it's hard for another operator that's out there to be able to compete with that, right? So they took something that was part of their culture. I mean, they weren't charging for those anyway, and they turned that into a marketing gimmick that got even more attention from something they were already doing.
That's true. That's brilliant. And like you said, it's not just clever. It's a lot deeper than that.
I think it was great.
You have a very very low tolerance for BS. So.
And I think that's what a lot of this charging fees is BS. And I know why they do it is because the typical user or whatever is going for the lowest ticket. They don't understand that when you start adding fees in, you get a cheaper ticket somewhere else. But whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The real brilliance of this strategy was exactly taking something that they were already doing and making a big deal out of it.
Absolutely.
And that's something that's easy to overlook in any business, because it's something you're already doing. You don't even realize it.
That is absolutely true. And Shashank, did you want to comment on that? I know this was I'm picking little pieces out of a big book, but that's because we only have a little bit of time here. So.
Yeah, no, I think that is a very important point. It shows two things. You pointed it well. Southwest was already doing it. Mm-hmm. What this shows is they remain consistent to who they are while the world around changed them. Mm-hmm. Right? So United changed, American changed, Delta changed. Now they're doing basic economy fares. Every airline is down for a race to the bottom. But Southwest says, hey, you know what? We're not going to charge back fees. Hey, you know what? We're not going to do basic economy. We're going to treat you like humans. And just by consistently doing what they've been doing since the 1970s, they now are standing out. In fact, they're more full service than many of the technically full service carriers out there, which I think is remarkable. And I think that truly shows the power of knowing why you do what you do and then sticking to your brand, not just changing every 2 days based on what's the latest, shiniest gimmick out there.
Right. And I think, the lesson for our group, we're all looking for ways to apply these things to our own businesses. And that really is, what are you doing already and what are your competitors not, that you can really make a big deal of and, point that out and make a hashtag and, make a poster and all those cool things like that.
Okay. Right, Paula? Exactly. My question, though, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
When I was in Dallas touring around and visiting Southwest, I was there. I spent 3 days there, and I do have friends at American Airlines as well. So then I ended up having one of my last meals with the guys over at AA. Ironically, we were sitting at a ribs place right under this "Please Don't Fly" banner.
Yeah.
From Southwest, and I look up and I asked this guy from American, two of them. So what do you think, guys? And it's like, to be honest, customers sort by price. They don't care. They just sort by price. And if we are not the cheapest, then they won't choose us. Now, what do you guys think of a statement like that? How true is that?
Question.
American is basically saying because the customers want it, we're going to give it to them.
Uh-huh.
What's your view on that?
I think it's short-sighted, personally.
I think so too.
That's almost like the Zig Ziglar style of selling, right? Where you're selling a used car and you don't really care if they come back because you got your money.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
if you're trying to build a long-term relationship and you want that lifetime value of the customer to just go up and up and up, then that's a terrible way to do business.
Right. That is true. But I would love to see the data. How did this do for Southwest? Did it show, did it actually improve their business? And I don't know that anybody knows because I don't know if they're showing their cards. But I'd love to see the data.
Well, they did. I mean, if you look at their financial results, they
Yeah.
had a $2 billion profit
Right.
that they just announced. And that is the highest amongst all carriers in the US. So, if anything, it shows their strategies, at least over the last couple of years, are still paying off.
Right. So it certainly didn't hurt them. We don't know specifically if this campaign is what caused it. Yeah. And there's, yeah. Anyway.
What's interesting is American and Delta had their opportunity, but they started treating even their multi-million mile flyers as nobody.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you're right.
because I'm one of them, right? And I mean, seriously, I've flown multiple millions of miles with Delta, and now it's almost as if I had just now discovered Delta and I walked on board.
Right. Okay, so I think we agree that was a brilliant strategy on their part. Moving on, Finnair, managing cultural differences. Now, this is something that I think Americans are scared to death of. Even acknowledging cultural differences, you can get into so much trouble so fast by doing something that's perceived as insensitive or anything like that. So I thought this was really brilliant, the story of Helena.
Yeah, you got that right. Helena Kartinen.
Yeah, Helena Cartman. Yeah, exactly. And how she would kind of make fun of some of the passengers of different backgrounds and things, but she did it so warmly and with such, I'm going to say, affection that it worked and works for her. And I think that's really the difference. Everybody can tell the difference between condescension and affection. Even children can see the difference, right?
Yes, but the law can't.
True.
Right.
All right.
I'm serious. That's why, and I know exactly what you're saying because over here, you do the same sort of thing and somebody's going to say they're offended.
Right.
Even if it was her doing it in her warm, affectionate way.
Right.
Joni, what do you think? I know you've run into a lot of this, probably in your travels.
Well, yes. I mean, we have an international clientele, and I think that again, it's all about the delivery, right? For most things, is if people know that you're, well, not picking on them, but alienate the, like focusing on them and not just, what do I want to say? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Meaning that if it's met with ill will as opposed to not really knowing, I think that they kind of can sense that you had no idea what you were, that you were offending, So I don't think that people do that intentionally,
Right.
So if you throw a little humor in there, lightheartedness is a good thing, Also, educate yourself a little bit. I think that perhaps that, that's what needs to be done. If you're flying outside of the culture in which you live in, then you definitely need to be educating yourself on what is the culture and how do I best,
Fit in.
approach business there.
Right. Lillian?
Yeah, that is definitely true. In the U.S., there is a minimal tolerance for the differences in culture. But if you go outside, if you do anything that's international at all, especially being sensitive to cultures is a huge thing. And certainly in business aviation, for companies that are, I mean, we tend to have a global reach no matter what for most companies. And that's something that we definitely need to be aware of and to manage those cultural differences, because you don't sell the same way in different cultures. And I mean, I certainly have, I mean, I found it myself in Dubai, and we had a meeting with somebody from Sharjah, and definitely being a blonde woman, not a really good move, you know.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's great. And in fact, I know John and I have done a lot of business in India, and we get made fun of all the time, because
Mm-hmm.
of some of the American quirks. And I don't mind it at all. I think it's actually kind of fun. It really breaks the ice.
Yeah, we kind of laugh at it.
Mhm.
But airline wise, I mean, I've done minimal traveling internationally, and we've flown on Taka Airlines into Honduras and India Airlines in India, and uh, another one or two in India. But Emirates Airline to me has been my favorite thus far.
Mhm.
The way they treat you, I mean, even in coach, right? Coach, you're treated as first class over here as what it would be in first class over here.
Right.
You just don't quite have the leg room
You're
where the
right.
down.
Yeah, you're right. There are a lot of these airlines that just treat you well. They just treat you nicely, and
Right.
Yes.
they're like JetBlue, right?
Yeah, there is that. Shane?
Well, that's kind of the crazy thing, right? I mean, the service standards have slipped so much that if someone actually treats you like a normal person would treat another person, everyone raves about the service, right? Well,
Exactly. That
it's kind of
is,
crazy.
yeah.
I mean, for the example of Helena, there was a comment in there that I thought was interesting where she said that she doesn't have one service strategy, right? So she doesn't
Right.
have some template that she
Right.
follows every single time. She uses some emotional intelligence to figure out, like, how can I interact with this person? And, how do I make a meaningful impact on their day? And
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty powerful.
Right. Absolutely. Did I hear another beep? Did someone else join?
We got somebody signed in as guest.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking about. So that's fine. Oh, right. I just don't want to overlook anyone if anyone has something to say besides that. And Shashank, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, as Shane said, it's actually a little sad that if an airline treats you normally, it's wow, which also is an opportunity for many airlines where, hey, guess what? If you just go above normal, you're fantastic.
Yeah.
So if you do decide to be nice, the world is your oyster, and there are lots of low hanging fruits there.
Right. Absolutely. All right.
Airlines and cable companies.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Right.
you bet. And telcos.
Yes, those utilities. They know they got you. All right. Now, Tony Fernandez is kind of a big personality. Speaking of big personalities in the world right now, in kind of the tradition of Herb Kelleher, and the other big personalities in aviation. I thought that was kind of a neat story. Joni, do you want to start? We'll put you on the spot again.
Again, I didn't get that far. I have to apologize.
No problem.
My life has been a little crazy. It's just
No,
a move will throw a bunch of wrenches into your day and life.
absolutely. I actually really admire you for just even being here today. So that's fantastic.
Well, I didn't want to miss. I mean, I wanted to listen. I can, maybe I should go last, because then I do have at least some world experience that I might be able to interject.
Good. Okay, we'll do that. So, Lillian.
Yeah, it's kind of a different thing having a personality being leading it, and I can definitely see for that particular airline it certainly helped, because people, especially people who don't fly much or are new to the market and such, having that personality to connect with was really good, has been really good for them.
Right. I think, every company that we work with, we look for a rock star, somebody that we can make into a knowable personality, because, people like to do business with people instead of with companies or corporations. I think that's a thing
Right.
nowadays.
And I think that's becoming harder and harder by the day, because large corporates are exactly that faceless entities.
Right.
So when you attach a face like a Richard Branson or a Herb Kelleher or Tony Fernandez,
Right.
people see a bit of themselves in these people,
Mhm.
or aspire to some of what these people have achieved. I mean, not everyone sees a bit of them in Richard Branson, but everyone wants to be, that cool, well-loved billionaire.
Right. And have all the toys and the island and all that. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
What I found, I've followed AirAsia quite closely, having grown up in Singapore. What I found quite surprising when I did interview Tony and his team was how, when they started out, all they had done was launch music albums. All they had done was launch artists, and hence they said, let's just launch this airline and let's launch Tony as our single artist and let's promote the single. Once we're done, we'll do the album, and then we'll do the cover, and then we'll do the next single. And I thought that was a very interesting approach.
Right. Absolutely. Shane, what do you
Definitely new.
Go ahead.
Sorry, definitely new for aviation.
That's for sure. Although there's some parallels with Virgin, also
Right.
in music and also in aviation, and also new to both,
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I interrupted Shane before I even let him talk.
It's okay. I see how I rank. So I think that it's kind of a double-edged sword to have someone that's that visible, because where their personality ends and where the company's brand begins is often blurred, right? So sometimes it's a really good thing, and sometimes it can be a really bad thing. I know there was a lot of criticism that was going around about Tony when Flight 8501 happened, and it started out where everyone was saying, well, no, the CEO should not be out there talking like this. You need to have a press person out there taking care of things, and he needs to be in the back. And over time, I think people did a 180 and realized, like, this guy is not up there giving platitudes. He actually cares, and he's trying to reach out as much as possible. So, assuming that politeness and civil norms and, whatever the expectations are of the culture will allow you to shine through to your true self, I think that works out pretty good. But if you happen to be in a situation where there's knee-jerk responses and then people don't come back and consider what happens afterwards, then that could potentially be a bit of a wild card to deal with.
Right. John?
But he was also reasonable with his flight crews and how he treated those guys as well. So he was through and through like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. That you got to have a thick skin.
I remember.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I remember in my chat with him, he mentioned that crash that happened on Christmas Eve was the hardest time in his life. And I asked him, so had you done some media training? Did you know how to deal with this? And Tony told me, you know what? I didn't even think how I should be acting. I just acted. My first instinct was I should be there. Because my question to him was, did your PR team plan that you should get there even before the ministers did, even before the officials did? And he said, no, I just said, I want to be on the next flight out there. And it turned out that by the time media arrived, Tony Fernandez was already there. And the only thing he had was his cell phone. And the only way he could communicate with his staff, he said, yes, there were lots of souls lost, but guess what? There were 6 crew on board as well. So my own team lost 6 people they knew. Most people lost 1 person they knew, or maximum 2. So I need to be with my team first. And hence he started tweeting out that, you know what, I as your CEO will stand by you. And I thought that was a very interesting insight. I think he was pretty much rewriting the crisis communications manual right there from the middle of the ocean when he was there, just by tweeting it out.
Yeah. Good instincts, and obviously very authentic and heartfelt, and not the usual glossy, lawyered up PR stuff. So, right.
Yeah.
Fantastic. On a lighter note, the Turkish Airlines, I think they were the first really to do, if you got to do a safety video anyway, why not use it as something that is fun and lighthearted and really shows some personality? And of course, we'll put the video into the notes for this episode, but hopefully everybody had a chance to see that. I'm sorry, I didn't get back to Joni. You were going to go last on the last.
Okay. Well, I did want to make a point about, being, and this isn't a person, but it was a marketing campaign. Okay.
Okay.
When I worked for Piedmont Airlines, they launched city-to-city service within Florida with a smaller aircraft, and it was called the Piedmont Shuttle. Well, everybody knows, because only a few days ago did we have the anniversary of the shuttle exploding, right? And so that marketing campaign was gone. I mean, that was such a bad, association. They just shut it down. And that was a whole marketing plan for a company. And I know we were talking about a person, so that person could make or break an airline as well, meaning that if he didn't go to that crash and he didn't, take a personal interest in it, it could have gone a very bad way.
True.
So I know it's a marketing campaign versus a person that's a spokesperson, but it's the same thing. You're really, I don't think it's a gamble, but it's definitely, well, I guess it is a gamble in some ways.
Right.
Because our human nature is sometimes doesn't always make the right decisions,
Yeah.
So that's the only point I wanted to make of that. That's all. And that was my comment.
Excellent. Yeah, I thought that Shashank had a thought, or maybe okay. We'll move on from that. I totally agree. I think the more you invest in a symbol, whether that's a person or a word or like shuttle or even a brand name or anything else, the more you invest that with, the more you're gambling. The more eggs you're putting in that one basket, which is a double-edged sword. So yeah, totally agree. All right, moving on to Turkish Airlines and their video. Lillian, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, that was just a brilliant way to get attention to the airline, for sure. That great idea, and viral videos are definitely a good way to get attention. What I really like, though, about Turkish is the way that they have choreographed things like that, like his illustration about the in-flight meals.
Mm-hmm.
And just how everything just kind of flows, and the quality and all that. That really spoke to me more. I like that.
Choreography. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, just coordinating everything together that way.
Right. Shane?
The interesting.
Sorry, go ahead.
The interesting thing was, Lillian, just let me jump in here.
Sure.
I was speaking with the CEO there while I was interviewing him about food, and he said that food is so important to us that we don't want your attention on anything else, and hence we have actually removed the shopping carts and duty-free shopping from the flight.
Right.
You can buy all the duty-free at the airport you want, which is, by the way, operated by Turkish Airlines as well. But they have just completely removed any catalog, any shopping on board, just so that people can focus on the food, which I thought was, flying in the face of conventional wisdom, but pretty unique.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
Right. Sorry, Shane, one more time.
Sorry. I was just going to say it really speaks to trying to have a quality product.
Definitely.
Yep, exactly.
Shane, did you have anything to add to that?
I haven't.
Heavens.
Only because I'm in the middle of reading that chapter right now on this flight that I'm taking to San Antonio.
Oh, great. Yeah, good luck in San Antonio, by the way. That should be a really fun speaking engagement for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, break a leg on that. And
You should send us a picture from the stage with the book in your hand, Shane.
So I might be open to doing something like that for some sort of commission basis.
always the business.
How about dinner next time you're in Toronto?
You know what? That sounds like a deal. I'll do that.
That's great.
I'll wait for the picture then.
That's fantastic. Or
Okay.
take a picture with the GE logo, with the event that you got. I think that's wonderful. Joni, or actually no, we're going to do John first and then Joni.
Well, the way the things are in the world these days, they've got to do something that is a little lighthearted. So that's well done.
Great. Joni?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're trying to like sell, at every given moment instead of letting somebody experience the service, I would totally, I'm totally on board with that. I mean, I don't fly international very often, but I did have an opportunity to fly back from a very long flight from Athens, Greece, back to New York, and yeah, you get that shopping cart in the aisle, and it does take away from the experience because, what else are you going to do for 11 hours? I mean, we happen to be on, a business class situation, which was way more comfortable than coach, but I can only imagine, it's hard to get comfortable back there regardless, and you got to, people selling stuff from,
right,
the beginning to end. So, yeah, that's all you really have up there is service.
That's true.
For people to remember.
Well, and I think one of the differences between airlines and business aviation especially is that in business aviation, maximizing customer revenue is not as big of a deal. In fact, it's kind of seen as a downside. You want to make your money, I'm going to say, in smaller or in you want to make the transaction as smooth and seamless as possible and not be running up and down the aisles with carts. We talk about simplifying the experience and, making it more luxurious. And I think they do a nice job of that for an airline, by taking away maybe from their, you don't feel like they're trying to squeeze the maximum revenue out of every minute that you're with them.
Right.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is, let me just chip in here since we're talking about shopping. Going back to the earlier discussion we had around cultures and how different cultures behave differently, there are airlines which focused heavily only on shopping. For example, Korean Air on their A380s have actually got a boutique at the back of the plane.
Wow.
This is where the Emirates of the world have the lounge and the bar and things like that.
Yeah.
Korean Air has a boutique. So you can go, you can do your shopping, and you can come back and take a seat. And it is the reason people choose to fly Korean Air over competitors like Asiana across the Pacific, because they can shop on board. And Koreans, by the way, love to shop. So this is right, it's resonating with their target market there.
Right. Putting the customer first.
Yep.
That's great. All right, moving right along. Kalula, the flying diagram. I love this. You've got the biggest billboard in the world. Why not use it, right? Let's start with Lillian again.
Yeah, it's a great graphic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it definitely and for its market too. It's a great way to introduce people to flying. That maybe hadn't experienced before. They had a kind of unique market too, because there's a lot of people who had never flown.
True.
So yeah, very creative and fun. Definitely something that works in their area for sure.
Absolutely. Shane? I don't know if you can see Shane.
I have no.
The Flying 101 green Kalula airplane on the screen here with the arrows pointing everywhere. This is the nose cone, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that plane, and I think it did a pretty great job of a huge marketing splash, right? Because everyone always looks at a machine and thinks like, I wonder how that. So I thought from a branding perspective that was very, very powerful. I'm curious to see what's written about that. Hopefully I'll get to that section of this flight.
Yeah, exactly. I hear them calling your flight. So. Right.
Well, the nice thing is when you approach it as a customer, it gives you a smile and sort of sets the tone for the flight.
Right. That's absolutely true. Shashank, did you have anything to add to that?
Well, I think what I found the most fascinating about this was who did it. It was this girl called Cherise, who was a design intern at the airline at that time. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't the CEO, it wasn't the marketing director, it was, a new girl who's just helping out with some graphics, some minimum Photoshop stuff, who says, hey, you know what about this? And everyone loves it. And the next day it's sent out to the factory to get it painted in this colors. And it was fantastic. It's a fantastic story of empowerment. And I thought, that totally stood out for me. And now Therese, by the way, runs the design division at Kulula. They don't have an external agency doing design. She's the chief designer of the airline. Even though they have stopped doing special liveries like this every single aircraft, they still do some really wacky advertisements. And if you look through the picture pages in SOAR, you will see a few examples of those guerrilla marketing. But I think it's a remarkable story of anyone being able to make the biggest impact and splash. And I still get sent this image of a plane by someone or the other every 4 weeks. Oh, have you seen this?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. No, I hadn't. That's funny.
Yeah.
Right. I think anybody can have an idea, but I think the execution of this was absolutely flawless. Ideas are wonderful, and it's great to have somebody like Cherise, that can come up with those fantastic ideas. But the way they execute them, I think, really makes the difference. And they don't do anything halfway. They really, if they're going to do it, they really do it, which I think is wonderful. Any other company might have just made a kid's coloring page or something out of this instead of doing the whole dang livery,
True.
Yeah. All right. I know we're getting close on time. We got a couple more things to talk about. So Singapore girl. This is kind of the opposite, I guess, of, the individuality, that we've been talking about from a lot of other airlines. But their culture, I guess, is one of their key values is consistency, harmony, all of that stuff. And, this is something that is very foreign to Americans. But once again, the execution of this is absolutely flawless. Their uniforms are beautiful. It's a very different kind of thing. But, Lillian, let's start with you. What do you think?
Definitely, again, the cultural aspect is key. You have to know your client base, and they're definitely addressing who the client base is. That it attracts others is a bonus. Mm-hmm. That there are, like people from North America who maybe haven't grown up with that same sort of a cultural thing, like the respect for the elders thing, and just that whole attitude about service. Right. And all. That's a bonus. That's a thing that they attract from it. But definitely speaking first to the culture of Southeast Asia.
Right.
I think that it's. I would agree with that it's important to know the culture that you're dealing with, and I think that's not only knowing the culture, but also knowing the demographic of the market that they want to serve.
Right.
So they're not trying to do the shotgun approach, right? They're taking a very narrow rifle focus. And if other people are included in that, that's great, but that's not their core demographic.
Right. Absolutely. John?
It's very similar to Emirates Airlines. The girls all look the same, and they do the same sort of thing.
Well, I know you used to really enjoy, kind of the old style airline experience, where it was a different culture, and the flight attendants were all, the uniforms was a thing to look forward to. That was kind of a cool thing for
Oh,
you.
yeah. When Southwest originally put their service together, when we were flying for the military, we all wanted Southwest Airlines.
Oh, you're talking about the hot pants?
Oh, yeah.
I remember those.
Oh yes, we got over those. Yeah.
Joni, what do you think?
Well, when I think about this, they probably want, like Walt Disney does. They don't want the people to remember the individual. They want them to remember the experience.
Right.
And so, if you make everybody, like look the same, they're going to remember the experience as opposed to the individual. And so that's what I take away from that. Again, I'm, not traveled a lot of these airlines. I'm just trying to look at this and go, okay, what else do I know in my life that, I could kind of relate to or make an association with. And so that's very much what I see when I see everybody in the same outfit.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? That they're going to want people to go away with, wow, that was some service and I'm going back.
Right.
Very good observation, because that's what I remember of Emirates, and that's what I remember of the old school Southwest.
Right.
That's a very interesting observation, by the way, and I like the comparison with Disney.
Yeah.
And you remember the Disney experience. You remember your first time at Disneyland, just like you remember your first time with the Singapore Girl or first time on Singapore Airlines. And like John was saying earlier, even if you sit in economy class or coach, you feel treated like a royalty, and it's really nice. What was interesting for me was how much attention they pay to training, and consistency is overrated. Most airlines, even though they try hard, cannot get a consistent delivery and experience, but Singapore Airlines does. And it's not based on initiative. It's not necessarily based on impromptu service, but really standard operating procedures, and it's really regimented. It may not be culturally possible in every situation, but there it works. And I asked a lady who's doing this training for 32 years. She's the chief trainer there.
Wow.
And I asked her what changed over the last 32 years. And she said, well, in the last 32 years, Singapore Girl has stood for something, it has come to resemble something, and everyone expects that only.
Right.
But guess what? The girls have changed. 32 years ago, these girls came from large families. They used to probably take care of their little brothers and siblings while they were growing up. They had this homely, motherly feel to them. Today, these girls are on Snapchat and Instagram, and they join. They have lived out of home for since they were 18. They have not taken care of anyone, and yet you need to imbibe that kind of caring attitude in them, and that's a huge challenge. And I said, tell me, what's a conversation like in this training? He said, well, quite simply, 32 years ago when we told them do this, they'll ask how. Today they ask why.
Why? Right.
And I was like, that's a very interesting insight. From the outside, we just see consistent delivery of the service, but internally, there's so much hard work required to get that to the customer, especially because you're dealing with individuals, and they're different.
Right. That's absolutely true. Well, actually, this is the Air New Zealand in-flight chat system. This is something I have never seen before, but until I read the book, I never conceived of such an idea. But Lillian, let's have you go first. What do you think of this?
Oh, I think it's a nice concept. It's a great idea to be able to connect with everyone, especially when you're sitting in some of these that don't, you're not sitting beside somebody where you're going to be able to talk.
True. Absolutely.
I think it's a new take on a very, very old thing that went around back in the 60s, where you go to a restaurant, and there was one in Oklahoma City that was called the telephone booth. And they had telephones in all of the booths.
Right.
And you could call up any booth you wanted to and talk to whoever was there.
That's fantastic.
That's interesting.
Right. Joni?
Well, I think that's taking a chance. There's a lot of people that don't want to be bothered, but I guess you buy into it if you want to buy into it, so that's okay. I've just went on a cruise, okay?
Right.
And Carnival Cruise Line in the Mediterranean, there was a way to connect as friends on that ship. So I think it's kind of the same concept, really. You know, you meet people, you can add yourself, they've got to add you, and it's kind of a, yeah, we're going to both agree, you know,
Yeah.
to kind of connect and to, you know, do things, do activities together on the ship, or go, you know, whatever you're going to do. So I guess it's just to make a bigger place feel smaller because you're now connecting with other people.
Yeah, building a community within.
Building a community, yeah. It's you know, you're either going to get all bought in by it, or you're not going to want it at all.
Right,
But
that's true. You know, that's something that we struggle with, you know, at ABCI. We want our customers to meet each other and talk to each other. And, you know, the book club is an example of that. So, you know, obviously I believe in the concept of this. I'm not sure about the execution. I think it's a little creepy if somebody, you know, if I'm on a flight and somebody texts me and I don't know them, I don't know how I would feel about that. But
I actually want to share my own experience. I didn't know that Air New Zealand had this until I was on board.
yeah.
And I didn't know that this was a system until it suddenly beeped.
Yeah.
And it's so I was on 1K. If you look at the seat map, 1K is right there.
Uh-huh.
And it said, you have a message from seat 1A. And I'm like, okay, that's really creepy. And I look over and it's, you know, a really old man with his wife sitting there. I was like, okay, what message could he have for me? I wonder.
Yeah.
And to give you context, I'm usually one of the last people to board. I don't like lining up. So I board and I'm the last one. And behind me is seat 2K, 3K, 4K, 2J, 3K, 4J. They're all empty. And I'm like, this is a light flight, you know, half of the business class is empty. But just before they close the door, a stream of well-suited men walk up, you know, nice suits, ties and everything, and just take a seat, and it's completely full. And I'm in 1K. The guy behind me in 2K seems to be a personality or something, because everyone in the other seats is coming and sitting on the ottoman, talking to him for a while, and then going back to their seats. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'm in the middle of the meal, and this message pops up from 1A. They would like to send you a message, and I look at it, and it says, hi, sir. Do you know who you're seated next to? And I'm like, no, not really. And it says, oh, it's our honorable Prime Minister, Mr. John Key. I'm like, really? It's like, yes, the Prime Minister of New Zealand seated next to you. I was like, oh, okay. And what about that guy in 2J? He's like, honorable Finance Minister. I was like, okay. What about the guy behind him? Oh, the Tourism Minister. I'm like, what the half of the cabinet is sitting next to me here? It says, yes, they're returning from the Commonwealth Ministers meeting, and that's why they're there. I'm like, okay. For like 4 hours, I'm sitting next to the Prime Minister of New Zealand. He's looking at me, I'm looking at him. I didn't even say hi. That's really rude of me. So I say hi to him, because when you're seated up in this herringbone configuration, you're literally eyes to eye next to each other. There's no barrier. So I say hello, and he asks me why I go to New Zealand. I said it's my first time. I'm actually writing a book about Air New Zealand. And he got really excited, because he was previously the Tourism Minister of New Zealand. He knows Air New Zealand very well. He knows the turnaround story. And we ended up having a very nice chat. And I thought he was a very humble man. Took a selfie with him in the end.
That's excellent.
and got off the plane. So the creepy message turned out to be a very fascinating experience for me personally.
Right.
Powered by the chat system.
So you were on Air Force One for New Zealand.
You got it.
Interesting.
That's fantastic. Well, that's wonderful. Well, I really appreciated the book. Let's just really quickly, does anyone have anything to add that we didn't cover? And I know I kind of cherry-picked some key items because we don't have a whole lot of time in these discussions, but did anything stick out to anyone that they want to mention here?
This is Joni. I just think it's a great compilation of all these different airlines. I look forward to just sitting back and being able to meticulously go through, and I'll probably send questions if that's okay.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. And Shashank, I did include, of course, people can connect with you on LinkedIn, Facebook. Do you have a preference for how people contact you?
LinkedIn is just fine, or they can just drop me an email directly. It's in the book as well. By the way, just for the readers of this podcast, I've just shared with you, Paula, a secret URL. It's a lot of behind-the-scenes photos and trip reports from my flights here while the airlines. So feel free to share it with this group. I think they'll have fun relating to some of these stories that I've shared.
Excellent. Well, I feel special. That is wonderful. That's great. We'll share that with the group and make sure that ends up in the in our Facebook private discussion as well, so that everybody has a chance to see that. And
I'm really humbled to hear some of the experiences everyone's shared and that you are finding it useful. If you can share some of these reviews on Amazon, that will be fantastic. You can just search the book on Amazon. It makes all the difference in the world, even more than what TripAdvisor does to hotels, by the way. That would be really, really kind of you if you can share some reviews. And as I said, I'm very reachable. If you're ever in Toronto, drop me a line. Happy to catch up with any of you. And meanwhile, feel free to drop any questions.
Fantastic.
Will do.
All right. So, Lillian, if you want to tell us about you and what you do and how to find you.
Okay, this is the short version here. Okay, hi. I'm Lillian Tamm, president of Avacor Aviation. We're aviation industry consultants and aviation business valuators. We undertake aviation industry research and feasibility analyses for aviation companies, for financiers, and for investors, and we value or appraise aviation businesses. If you would like to discuss how evaluation can benefit you or need research or analysis to support corporate activities, give me a call. My direct number is 503-214-2268. Again, my phone number is 503-214-2268, and my name is Lillian Tamm. I look forward to hearing from you.
Fantastic. That was really well done. Joni, do you want to tell us about Whirly Girls?
Absolutely. The Whirly Girls organization has been around for 61 years, and it began in 1955 with 13 women from 3 different countries. Our organization, in order to be a full member, you must hold a rotorcraft rating. And what we primarily do is provide scholarships to women who are doing advanced training in helicopter and vertical flight. And we also do networking and mentorship for our members.
Fantastic. That is wonderful. So, John, do you want to do the 30-second thing for ABCI?
No, I'll leave that to you. You've pretty much done it the whole hour.
Oh, that's true. Exactly. So I just want to do a 30-second thing for our storytelling summit at Sundance in Sundance, Utah. And Shashank, this would be wonderful for you as well, since you already are a fantastic storyteller. We are getting together at Sundance, Utah, which is the spiritual home of the Sundance Film Festival, Robert Redford's universe, and helping our members become better storytellers. That's really the focus of a 3-day event. And we're going to go horseback riding, we're going to eat fabulous food, and we're going to hang out in the mountains, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And everybody's going to go home a much more compelling storyteller. That's our goal for that event. 23rd through 25th, so August 23rd through 25th. And it's going to be a fantastic event. So, Shashank, do you have a real quick promotion for the book? I know you can find it on Amazon. Is that the best way to find it and buy it? Or
you can find it on Amazon. You can find it on simplysoar.com with an I. And we're running a promotion right now, which is buy 1, get 1 free for your boss, or buy 5, get 10, buy 40, get 100.
Right.
That's only till actually the end of this week. So if you are thinking of buying it for your clients or organization, go ahead and we'll make sure they're shipped to you. But as I said, what I would really appreciate is a review on Amazon will go a really long way. And I truly enjoyed the discussion, and I'm so humbled, as I said, that everyone's read it in depth and found it useful. Thank you so much. Makes all the effort worth it. And I'll be very happy to catch up with anyone and be in touch.
Fantastic. And then next month, of
Sounds
course,
good.
we're going to be reviewing Evergreen, which is the book that's going out in the mail, hopefully in the next day or two, to everyone. And it's basically about customer loyalty. And I think it was possibly Shane that recommended this one. I had not read it before, but we have an election every year to vote for the 12 books we're going to review. And this is my first time reading it, and I'm actually really impressed. I got my copy early so I could make bookmarks and things. So good stuff. I'm really looking forward to that one as well. So yeah, this was fun. I'm really glad you guys are here. These get better every time, and it was a lot of fun to hear everybody's thoughts and make America smart again, right?
There you go.
Well, and just a quick hat tip, Paula, to you as well for pulling together the group and inviting me to join the discussion. It was truly enriching. And since you mentioned bookmark, thank you for that leather bookmark you sent me. It's very nice of you.
Well, you're very welcome. We like to treat our guests well so that they will come back. Bribery is a wonderful thing. So, all right. Thank you very much. And you guys have a great afternoon. And I appreciate you sticking with us a little over time. And we'll talk to you next month, if not before. And look forward to hearing from all of you in your office hours. Fun.
Thanks for joining us for Aviation Marketing Hangar Flying, the best place to learn what really works in sales and marketing in the aviation industry. Remember to subscribe on iTunes and leave a rating.